And we welcome you to this edition of In the Circle post-game show. Just wrapping up game one of the National Championship Series, the Women's College World Series final. Eric Lopez here with you. Oklahoma victorious 5-0. The final score. Jordy Ball with a 2-hit shutout. Mac Leonard with the loss. We'll kind of get your comments and questions here. We're going to try to keep it short, probably a 30-40 minute show. Here, hope to be joined by Kenzie Fowler. Victor, obviously not a surprise, past 12:20 a.m. Eastern, did not make it. Couldn't make it with a couple rain delays, but the Sooners are victorious 5-0. Game two on Thursday, 7:30 Eastern. But Oklahoma was the story. Kenzie Fowler will be joining us in a couple of minutes of Pac-12 Network analyst, former Arizona pitcher. We're going to have a lot to talk about in this game. Florida State choosing not to throw their ace, Catherine Sandercock, in this game. Not 100% shocked still. I'm going to ask Kenzie Fowler for her thoughts on that and what to make of that. But Jordy Ball was fantastic. Florida State had no answers for her. And Oklahoma's offense got going around the fourth inning on. And, Florida State brought in McKenna Reed, the freshman, and Oklahoma teed off on her. So the Sooners are victorious, 52nd straight win. And the Sooners now are a win away from a three-peat and becoming the first softball team to do it since the UCLA did it in 1988 through 1990. Send your comments and questions on our chat room. Of course, we are on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and give us a like. And also feel free, if you want to take care of us, you can DM us as well. You can, of course, follow us on our podcast feed as well, In the Circle. That will be a fun one on the podcast as well. We'll have an episode out and much more. All of it on In the Circle. Of course, In the Circle SB on Twitter. It'll be there as well. So game one, we wondered if we'd get the game in. Game got delayed. They started the game, and then after a half inning, they had another weather delay. And once again, they had a deal there where the Sooners resumed the game bottom of the first. What was it? Like around 9-10 o'clock. And it was a pitcher's duel for a while. Mac Leonard, I thought, was very good. The Knowles going with her. She was solid. She hit that hit by pitch in that fourth inning. They took her out. And it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating, the decision making there. McKenna Reed came in and was just not effective at all. Oklahoma teed off on her like they did in the regular season matchup too. It wasn't like Oklahoma was surprised by it. So Kenzie Hansen was fantastic. 2 hits, couple of RBIs in the game. Nearly was a run rule. Mudge made the great catch in left field to certainly prevent the run rule. Otherwise, it would have been an 8-0 game. But nonetheless, the Sooners victorious 5-0, and now we're a win away. And Sooners are advancing there. Eric, so we'll kind of see what some of the questions here. That's a good stat by Fang Nai. Reed lasted 17 pitches in March, 16 pitches tonight. That's a great stat right there. I don't get it. This is the new softball. I mean, when I get Kenzie, we're going to talk a lot about that in today's pitching. And I just don't agree with it. Now, of course, Kenzie Fowler is going to be, we're going to talk, former pitcher, pitched in the National Championship Series in 2010. We'll talk to her about it. But now you got to believe Florida State will go to Sandercock to start tomorrow night. Oklahoma has options. They can go to Nicole May, which is what I think they'll do. Could go to Storako. But, Sandercock can go the distance. And I think she's going to have to. And she's capable of that. And, personally, I think she could go all 3 days. That's, to me, Florida State's best chance is to throw Sandercock. I mean, you could talk about all these arms, but, Mac Leonard was pretty good, but I don't know. We'll see we'll see. I mean, now Florida State's going to have to do something that hasn't been done against Oklahoma since 2020, and that's beat them back-to-back games. In fact, no team has done it. Single team has beaten Oklahoma back-to-back games since UCLA in 2019. So that's a tall order that Florida State put themselves into. Florida State had a chance early in the game when I thought Jordy wasn't as sharp, but they didn't convert. And then a couple of defensive miscues, OU going with small ball, and that was a big factor as well. So Sooners victorious 5-0. Uh, and again, I didn't think Oklahoma swung the bats great, but they found ways to win, and that's kind of been the story of the Sooners team throughout the season. So uh, we'll see how this goes. Holly Rowe has a podcast, David. I didn't know that she had a podcast. Uh, so we'll see how that goes on that. So we'll get some of your questions in. Deal, of course, game 2, 7:30 Eastern on Thursday night. And we'll see if the Noles can make this a series or not, or is Oklahoma going to sweep them? And Oklahoma will be the visiting team tomorrow night. So keep that in mind. But the Sooners always make adjustments from the fourth inning on. They hit the ball pretty well. Was kept in the park. I think if you're Florida State, you feel good about that. So we'll see. Sandercock's got to be fantastic. No doubt about it. She's got to be fantastic. And that's going to be the big pressure. Let me read some of the comments. Overall, questions here. She was in a podcast with an old football player. Okay. Rain delays did help. Do we think Max should have been taken out of the game? It says David Cicero. That's a good question. I would not have taken her out at that point. I thought she was throwing the ball well, was doing her job, keeping the ball down. Obviously, they kind of I felt like they were going to go through one time through the order, and then I think they were going to go batter by batter. And if she got in any trouble, they would have taken her out. I thought it was a little overly aggressive. I would have kept her in. I thought she threw well at that point, but they didn't. They went to McKenna Reed for a different look, but she was no mystery for Oklahoma. I'll be curious what Kenzie thinks about it when if she joins us here in a little bit. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the story there. I don't think that OU made adjustments. They just relaxed after they scored. I agree. I think Oklahoma's one of those, once they get that first run in, it kind of floodgates a little bit. And I thought they relaxed a little bit. Keep in mind, it's game 1 of the championship series. I'm sure everybody has a little bit of nerves and you're a little bit uptight in that deal. So that's perfectly normal, I thought. By the way, if some of you are watching or covering are going to watch the post game, let me know of any interesting comments that are made on the post game. I will upload that after the stream here, but we'll see. So Holly, according to Mark Virgil, was on the Oklahoma Breakdown with Teddy and Gabe. Is that Teddy Lehman? Yeah, that's right. He's got the show there. But we'll see how that goes. See. And you're right, Robbie. I mean, Sandercock it has to be Sandercock, but FSU is going to have to hit. I don't think they'll see Jordy Ball tomorrow. That's the good news if you're Florida State. You'll probably see Nicole May. And if you could jump out to a lead early, you got that's the key for FSU. If Oklahoma jumps to a lead, it could be all she wrote. But we'll see. W Corporate. Tennessee never pitched Rogers versus OU. FSU didn't pitch their best. Head scratcher. Sell out to win the first. Sell out to win the first game. That's old school thinking. I tend to agree with you. I don't disagree with you. But the landscape today in softball, man, I don't know. Sometimes you wonder if people are just thinking outside the room. So we'll see. Yeah, Riley Boone was tremendous. Fabric Boone was amazing. She's like a 400 hitter in the 9-hole. No one will truly understand her greatness until she's gone. I mean, the 9 hitters like that de facto leadoff spot in the batting order, and to me, that's to me the value of a player like Riley Boone. So we'll see a bit. We'll go from there. So. Get my text message here. At least she's back next year. MVP, a little early for that. I want to see how this game plays out tomorrow. I mean, obviously, Jordy Ball and Kenzie Hampton are the 2 best players for Oklahoma, I think, this postseason. They tend to go with the pitcher. That being said, we don't know if Jordy has to pitch again in this series or not. Will she pitch tomorrow, close the game out? Is Kenzie Hampton going to have another big game tomorrow night? I think those are things that will play into that picture from that standpoint. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. That play, great. Yeah, right. We did see some great defensive plays there, Corporate. And, that play off the wall and throw to second for the easy out by Coleman, then the Mudge catch. Wow, great athletes on display tonight. Agreed. I mean, that's the beauty of the sport. I thought there were some great plays there. from that standpoint. Mark Barnett. Is it possible that Ball goes tomorrow? That would not be Patty's MO. Patty tends not to do that. If you look at her history, she likes to go to the number 2 pitcher in game 2. I think what they'll do is you'll start Nicole May. I think if you have a lead late, she'll bring in Jordy to close it out. But I don't think she'll start her. I could be wrong, but I don't think she'll start her. I think back to 2013, they didn't start Kalani Ricketts after game 1. They went to Gascoigne. They won. They tend to not do that. Even last year, I believe they went Troutwine, then Jordy. So you have a game in hand. So I don't think Jordy pitches tomorrow unless they have a lead late, and then she might come in to close it out. And then again, you have game 3 at your disposal on Friday, and that's the challenge for Florida State now. They're going to have to throw Sandercock back-to-back days, in my opinion. But it is what it is. But again, I mean, if those old school days, I would have thrown Jordy tomorrow because to me, there's nothing that I saw tonight that would suggest that FSU is going to hit Jordy Ball, no matter how many times they see her. No, I don't think Staraka will get the start. I think Nicole's the more experienced. She's pitched in a championship series before, and that just hasn't happened. But I could be wrong. Staraka's kind of been used mostly in relief, so we'll see. But I think they both will be available early. They'll be available. I think you'll see May start with Starako in relief. Now maybe they start Starako. And maybe some of you could help me out. Who threw in the Oklahoma game against Florida State earlier this year? But I'm pretty, like I said, Guerin is redshirting, Mark. So you will not. I guarantee you will not see Guerin tomorrow or any point of this series because they're redshirting her. Patty Gasso told me that before the season. But I think you will see Starako in May, and if depending on the score, you might see Deal for a couple of batters. We'll see. But I do think Jordy Ball will be available to close it out if they have a lead late. So Starako started the March game. So yeah, I feel confident Nicole will start in that tomorrow night. But again, and I think you're going to see Sandercock. So yeah, if Starako started earlier this year, I think they'll go with Nicole May, especially with the veteran who, after giving up the home run to Stanford on Monday, actually threw the ball very well. So yeah, I would expect Nicole May to start on that one. So we'll see how it goes. It's 12:30 and late night. We should call it late night here at In the Circle. Late night here and In the Circle. Great audience coming in. Give me your thoughts on the game. How was the broadcast? Obviously, I was on with Sean. And so I didn't get to hear the broadcast. Did you enjoy the broadcast? Did you not? Feel free to send me those comments. I should have the numbers. I think they'll do a good number tonight, despite the rain delay. The game was competitive enough, in my opinion, that they should. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, the weather in March, right, was not great. I remember that in Norman. So we'll see. That's true. I don't expect a lot of Knowles fans in this stream. All right. So no Sooners win 5-0, ladies and gentlemen. Now joining us on the stream, my good friend, who I've waited all night through 2 rain delays to talk to. No, I'm excited to talk to our good friend Kenzie Fowler. Of course, you know her on the Pac-12 Network, analyst, does some games on ESPN, did some regional this year in Salt Lake. And oh, by the way, pitched in the National Championship Series in 2010, back in the days when they used to throw your number 1 pitchers on, game 1. Hi, Kenzie. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Are you all right? Did your Heat lose?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so we're powering through tonight for you.
You're the reason I'm excited. That's all I can say.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. But thank you for the condolences on the Heat loss. Yes.
Condolences, yes.
The positive was the game was pretty much done after 3 quarters, so I didn't pretty much could watch the softball game from that point on. So
got it.
We'll see how it goes. Give me your thoughts here. I know it's just been minutes away from this game ending, but give me your first blush thoughts here on this game 1.
The score felt bigger than it was. What was it, 5-0?
Yeah, 5-0. Could have been obviously more if it wasn't for the Mudge catch. Would have been a run rule.
Felt like a lot more. Even when it was 3-0, it felt like a lot more. Felt like it was, closer to that run rule territory, which is, I think, just the Oklahoma factor. You give up a couple of runs and it feels like that's it. Which of course I really want to be in that presser right now. I'm sure you're recording it and we're going to be able to listen to it, because I think we're all thinking the same question. And, I was okay with not starting Sandercock. Kind of crazy. I saw the line. I'm like, okay, I'm into it. You're not going to win the national championship in the first 3 innings. But when it was in the 3rd inning and it was 0-0 and, second time through the lineup, and you're thinking, okay, now is when you make the change, and it wasn't Sandercock, I was like, okay, interesting.
It's the new way of thinking. Now, Lonnie's done this all year, using Sandercock as more of a closer when she doesn't start, using this committee approach. She's done it all year. I think Sandercock had like 8-9 saves this year. So I wasn't shocked completely. I just hate it. I'm old school here, Kenzie. I like whatever happened to the days of the number 1 pitcher. So we've now seen this twice, Kenzie, in this World Series. Tennessee did not throw Ashley Rogers in the winner's bracket game against Oklahoma, and Lonnie decides not to throw the ACC's best pitcher in Catherine Sandercock in game 1 when Oklahoma hasn't lost 2 straight games in 3 years. Are we overthinking this in softball now? I hate this baseballism that's coming into this game from this standpoint. Like, maybe now, in fairness to Tennessee, Ashley Rogers has had a history of injuries, which I think did play a role in that decision. But still, people are overthinking this with Oklahoma. How much of this is psychological of Oklahoma, and how much of this is the new wave of softball today?
I think it's strategy. I mean, Oklahoma's legit. I mean, they're the best team that we've seen in however long, right? They're legit. So you've got to do some different things, and you've got to think outside the box to beat them. And I think that's what we're seeing with these coaches with the pitching choices. And I think maybe Lonnie is locked into her at bats, and obviously we're not the coaches, so they're watching the at bats, and until the hitters start showing the coaches for Florida State something different against ball, then there's really no point in bringing in Cat. So, maybe there's some cues that they're really looking for to pick up on where, hey, maybe we can get a couple of runs across on ball, but the way she was pitching tonight, it's you get the score 3-0, no Cat. There's no, once it gets to 3-0, no Cat. But 0-0, different ball game. And you have to think about, Jordy was struggling a little bit early. Her ball was moving away, and so you bring in Kat, who's the 5th year, and the game changes there because things are just a little bit tighter. So, hindsight is 2020, but I think that's just a factor of the dominant team where these coaches are trying to think outside the box and maybe think about what is the best strategy, because straight up, maybe it's not doable.
But are we overthinking this? Like, I feel like we're complicating this more than it really is. Like, it's funny, Pat, we've talked all year about Oklahoma and how they have these 3 aces, these 3 great pitchers. But in the postseason, Patty Gasso is kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to throw my best pitcher as much as I can, and Jordy Ball. It doesn't seem like she's getting too cute with this, but yet other teams are.
I think it's easier when you are, the one that everyone's chasing you. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep, pedal to the metal. I'm not going to look in my rear view versus the car that's driving up behind you, trying to make some moves, trying to cut some people off. I was laughing with my sister. I was like, I didn't know this was an option. Didn't know that you could throw your number 2 pitcher so many times in the World Series. And it's just different generation, different era. I love the talent with the pitching depth and, what we're seeing with all these pitchers. The whole season, it's been like this, where we've seen just fewer innings. I know it was a lot of talk about the All-American list because the innings are more down, because pitchers are more of a staff, and rewarding the pitchers that are pitching, 120 innings or 130 innings. But there is something to be said about having your best player on the bench in the most important game of your career. And, that's why you conserve those innings for this moment. So that way she does go in when it's 0-0. And hey, if Oklahoma touches her up real quick hook, right? And then you're okay, let's go watch film.
That's the old way. That's the old school thinking that nobody does anymore. Like the old, like you bring her in, and then if it didn't work out, you get her out of the game and regroup.
Yep. Yeah. And it's quick, and you regroup. So yeah, I think we are overthinking it a little bit, but it's fun to speculate and watch as a fan, and on Twitter, as everyone's kind of having the same thought, but we're not the women in the arena, they are, and you're going to see Florida State try and do the opposite of what happened to them a couple years ago, which is winning the first game, on the flip side losing the first game, and then coming to storm from behind. And there's going to be a lot of film that's watched. In Oklahoma probably not going to throw a ball tomorrow, so Florida State's got to be aggressive early and make some moves.
And they're going to have to start Sandercock. But again, even if it works, if you throw Sandercock and you win tomorrow, what are you going to do? Not start her game 3? Like, it's kind of – and you're going to see Jordy game 3. So it's just – I don't get it. To me, you got to throw your best as much as you can. I understand everybody's got tape on everybody, but I can't imagine that if somebody had Monica Abbott and Kat Osterman in today's day and age, people were like, hey, Kat, sorry, we're going to go with the number 2. We're going to save you for tomorrow. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm sorry. I'm a little fired.
Yeah.
I can't.
No, I do understand not starting. I mean, am I writing the lineup? No, but I'm like, okay. But then when it was in the third inning, 0-0, I'm like, make the move right now. Go. Bring her in.
So you would have brought her in when Leonard, and I didn't even, what did you think about pulling Leonard after that hit by pitch? I mean, because she was throwing well.
And
earlier. Yeah. Oh,
I would have done it earlier. Yeah. Okay. As soon as the lineup turned over, I was thinking we were going to see a change, and she stayed in for maybe one more inning than I thought she would have. And, then Boone hit the double, and then they made the change. But I would have pulled her as soon as Coleman's coming up again.
What did you see Oklahoma do, especially when McKenna Reed came in offensively? Because you mentioned it, they didn't really swing the bats well early in the first 3 innings. I think they only had like 1 hit in the game. And you mentioned FSU had some chances early in the game against Jordy Ball. But then once Oklahoma got the lead, like you said, it was kind of like, oh boy, it's like a big mountain. What did you see Oklahoma do?
I don't know if I saw them do anything. It was just the pitches were too sweet. They were just a little bit too center cut. And Riley Boone, she's so good. She goes and gets the ball down by her shins. But then, Kenzie Hansen gets one that's kind of served up a little bit. So fall behind in the count. And they're so tough with 2 strikes. They're almost tougher with 2 strikes because their swings are so fundamentally sound. And it's like they get that gritty mindset. So you get that mindset where it's like fight to the death in this count. And then paired with their talent, it's a really scary place to see them with 2 strikes. They have the best approach in the game with 2 strikes.
Oklahoma went a little bit small ball too. Patty Gasson getting the bunt. They got a run scored off a bunt. FSU miscued defensively.
Yep.
Everybody talks about Oklahoma and their power game, but they went a little small ball there too to kind of put pressure on FSU, kind of give FSU a little bit of run of their own medicine.
Yeah, I love it. I love seeing Jada Coleman, drop a bunt and beat it out. It's almost unfair at points because you're like, really, you're like the best home run hitter and such a dual threat from the left side. We don't see her slap, but gap to gap power, home run power, and then showing the bunt. So, and plus that's also something that's kind of playing into tomorrow. Like you have to open the scouting report. So maybe that forces Florida State to play her a little bit more shallow on the corners tomorrow. And we've seen how hard she hits the ball. So that's playing chess, not checkers, just saying, hey, I've got this extra little thing in my toolbox just in case you want to scout it for tomorrow and play me a couple more steps in, So I think that was a move to me for tomorrow and, if there is a game 3.
What does Florida State have to do here? Not only in game 2, but eventually they're going to have to see Jordy Ball again. So what do they have to do to be successful offensively?
It's a great question.
So I ask.
Ball's good. She's really good. But she's good when she's good no matter what. She's one of the best top 3 pitcher right now in the game. If the offense if you can keep it tight, because when Oklahoma gives her a lead, to me, it's over. Like she gets that confidence, she gets the swagger, she's throwing loose. The only chance they have is if they keep it tight and things get a little bit, tense in the circle for whoever's in the circle for Oklahoma. Ball, May, Storako. That's an intense environment. I've been there. When things are tight, you feel it as a pitcher. Game can get really fast very quickly. So it's everything to get the lead and take a breath and be able to reset. So Florida State, the offense has got to be the defense.
What's impressed you about Jordy Ball? Remember last year she was hurt. So she was limited. This year she's fully healthy. What's impressed you the most about her?
her spins, and you heard on the broadcast a couple of times they were talking about tunneling, about how she's vertical. And I love that. There's so much in today's, especially in our youth, everyone's really excited about throwing a screwball and throwing a curveball. And it's kind of like old school about throwing the rise, drop, and the change. And that's really what she throws. She threw a couple of curveballs, but it's rise, drop, and change. And that's just filthy. You're talking about high, low, and then off speeds.
Let's see here. So we still got Kenzie. Did we lose Kenzie?
And are we
There.
back?
Yeah, now you're back. Now you're back. We lost you briefly there.
Sorry for a second. I was just like, it's loading. It looked like a screwball. My computer was doing this. So.
You started talking about screwballs, and
I know it was like doing the exact same thing. Sorry about that. But it's just the tunneling, and when you teach and develop young pitchers, that's the order that you want to learn. You want to learn obviously fastball, your mechanics, work on your power and your explosion and pushing off the mound and throwing hard, getting the velocity. But then you want to learn the changeup, and then you want to learn the drop, and then you want to learn the rise. And then once you learn those three, you can start playing with a curve and a screw if you need them. If you don't need them, then you don't honestly really need to learn them. But that's the fundamental of the heart and soul of pitching. So it's really fun to see that. It's just simple, up, down, slow.
What do you think both head coaches tell their teams here after tonight going into game 2? If you're Florida State, how do you stay positive and psychologically make sure that, hey, we're not beaten, it's just one game, we're going to throw our ace, but how do you stay positive? And then Oklahoma, what's the message Patty Gasso has for her team?
I would love to know. I would love to hear it because I would love to absorb some of the wisdom. But I think you heard, I don't know if it was in the in-game interview with Holly Rowe or maybe it was before, but you heard Lonnie Alameda say that this is a series. So that tells me long game. So I'm sure that's communicated in the locker room. Like, hey, we wanted to get some looks. If the opportunities were there tonight, great. But we're going all in for tomorrow. They're a very data-driven team. So you know that they're going to absorb every single opportunity that they had tonight. And I think that the players and the culture, their heads are level about that. Like they can handle that mentally. So I think that sentence, like it's a series, tells me that they're thinking tomorrow's the day, push the issue to game 3. And then for Patty, I really got nothing. I would really love to hear what she says in the locker room because what do you tell
working out well for her?
Literally, what do you tell that team? Hey guys, can you guys be the best team tomorrow again? Great, thank you so much. Like they're so good. Did you see the play that Jada Coleman made? I don't know if I've ever seen a center fielder take a ball on the hop, no step, transition. That looked like looked like she was turning a double play at the warning track and threw a 100-mile-an-hour major league strike to second base. It was just like, what? And then, of course, Mudge, the next inning, tries to outdo her with the best robbery that we've seen in a long time. So that was pretty fun. But, I mean, shoot, Oklahoma's just so good. So good.
No, and I mean, that's the thing that's a challenge because, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, Florida State has to score early tomorrow because if you fall behind Oklahoma, it's like an avalanche.
Yeah.
And psychologically, now, Sandercock's got to put some zeros up early, and FSU has to score early. I mean, it's just, I know it sounds simplistic, but you're right. I mean, Oklahoma, they just find ways to make plays all over the field. I mean, that Coleman catch was unbelievable, or throw, I should say. Yeah. And then, I mean, you got plays where Riley Boone gets a double and then the ball hits her. Like, I've never seen that where she took third. Like,
when you're good, you get breaks too. You know what I mean? that was just like, yep, that's exactly how this game is going right now for Oklahoma. Celebrate, you get an extra base. Love it.
All right, we're joined by Kenzie Fowler here on In the Circle live show. Now, we've talked a lot about the game, but I did want to have you on because you have a lot of thoughts. There's been a lot of topics that have been broached in the World Series, and your head's been spinning, I could tell on social media throughout the World Series because there's been topics and rules that you have propped up. So I'm giving you the platform.
Well,
what are some of the rules here?
It's funny you say that because I feel like my thoughts were like hot takes a month ago, and now I feel like they're very mainstream the last 2 days. In the last 48 hours, I've seen more tweets than I have seen the last, 3 years where I've been, I'm not calling for anything, but I'm, if somebody asks my opinion about the illegal pitch, I'm going to say, yeah, I don't think it should be a part of our game. And, the last 48 hours, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see. So it's kind of funny that you say that. And now I'm like, no, I think people are on board. And you even heard it from Michelle Smith and Jess Mendoza, which I thought was huge. They talked about, a rules change year and very strongly need to consider getting rid of it. And, just something that
they're serious about that because
is tired of.
Do you think they're serious about that? Because I feel like we've had that mentioned like every year, like, oh, they're thinking about getting rid of it. I mean, I remember like 6 years ago, we actually had Mike Kendra, your old coach, on the show, which was a big moment for our show. Our show is very young. We emailed Arizona.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. I remember I sent the email out to your former SID at softball, who was there for a long time. And for the request, thinking, it's just no chance. But you gotta send the email, right? You gotta try the old saying. You try.
Yep.
And next thing we know, we get the emails like, yeah, he'll do it. I'm like, what? Oh, but I remember one of the topics he talked about was the illegal pitch, and he feels they should get rid of it, or at least kind of be like the international rule where it's not as big of a factor.
Yep.
And part of the problem that we have in the college game, and I've said this with the illegal pitch, the reason it's not consistent is because every umpire is subject, it's to their discretion.
Yep.
And what happens is certain umpires on the West Coast will call it for certain pitchers that come on to California. There's just this perception that the home team doesn't get called very rarely. And obviously that showed up again with McKenna Reed, who in defense, Christy Cromwell was the rules analyst and the broadcast did break down the fact that she was illegal in multiple ways. But Lonnie was upset about it because they hadn't called her illegal all year. And so how do you know as a pitcher that your mechanics are off when they haven't called it all year? So there's no consistency to it. So for those that haven't listened to it, because I've listened to you talk about this with Jenna Becerra on her podcast, and then I saw you talking with our friend Justin McLeod on his podcast. So for those that don't know, because you're passionate about this, because this was a factor in the 2010 World Series. You were picked on a little bit, in part probably because you were a freshman. That was my theory back then.
It was hazing. It was definitely hazing.
So what would you say? Get rid of it all? There's no. You don't leave anything there. Give us your thoughts here. What would
international rules? International rules, and the reason, and there's a lot of layers to this, and it's not going to fix everything. It's not going to make our game snap our fingers, and it's not going to make it perfect, but it's going to get it closer. And the more that we can take off of our umpires, the better our game is going to be. And there's so many things where I would love to take some of that off of it. The umpires have too much on their plate. They do. And to be honest, that's why I think some parts are struggling, to be quite frank, a little bit, because there's too much for them to worry about, and it's just not fair. I'm talking, I'm watching Sports Center top 10 plays right now. So I'm a little distracted because I am very, I want to see the Mudge and I want to see the Coleman plays top 2. So I'm going to try and.
You're curious to see how they rank them.
Yes, I want to see if they get top 2.
What number are you at? I'm at number 3.
We're at 5.
Oh wow, so I'm ahead of you.
My Wi-Fi is pretty good here, Eric. And I'm just kidding. We gotta get that ESPN broadcast at home Wi-Fi upgraded this year.
Am I the only one that uses linear television anymore? I mean, I'm always ahead.
Here comes 4. I tweeted that we needed to have Coleman and Mudge 1-2. I don't segue. Which one would be 1? Coleman or Mudge? The home run, maybe?
The Mudge. Yeah, the Mudge. Yeah. That's a heck of a robbery. Okay. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you're going to be disappointed.
Okay. Well, 4 is the Heat. There's a dunk. I don't know who number 13 is, but he dunked it. Here comes
Bam Adebayo. I'll get you to be a Heat fan at some point.
Well, my husband's from the Bay, so we are a Warriors house.
You've had a good run.
I'm not really a basketball girly in terms of the NBA, but
you're hardcore softball. Yeah. What number are you at? This is riveting.
Here's 2. Here comes 2. Oh, if this isn't Coleman or Mudge, it's baseball. It's MLB.
Yeah. Baseball, darn it.
Okay, producing. They didn't. We'll give them that they didn't have enough time to turn it around. We'll give that to them.
That's their whole job is to turn it around quickly.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I got distracted. I tweeted it. I wanted the top. Oh, no Coleman. Here's Mudge. Mudge is number 1.
I told you. Yeah. Did Coleman not make it like earlier in the rankings? Did you look at
Coleman
it?
didn't make it, but Mudge, the rivalry's
Wow.
#1.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're gonna use that as a chip on the shoulder, maybe. I don't know.
that's huge. Okay,
So
now I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better.
that's okay. I understand.
That's huge. #1 play on Sports Center. Love it.
But rightfully so.
Now I should turn the TV off so I can focus and talk about illegal pitches. Okay, so we were talking about illegal pitches and international rules, and there's not one dance that fits every pitcher. Every pitcher is completely different. And you look at, Monica Abbott, Yukiko Ueno, Kat Osterman, all completely different. So to take the crow hop or the leap combo of the two, whatever, take it away, I don't think it would be a disservice to the sport. I think you're still going to see pitchers that are airborne, and I think you're still going to see pitchers that are on the ground, because every single pitcher's body is completely different. Jordy Ball and Nigeri Kennedy, probably the two best pitchers, this week. Completely different body types. The way they push off the mound is different. It's just it's sports, it's athletes. Everyone's going to do their dance a little bit differently. So, and the fact that it's a judgment driven thing is the thing where I'm always just like, judgment, I'm out. Like, it's like, it'd be like having an obstruction play every single pitch where you have to determine, you know what I'm saying? But it's true, because we see the slow-mos, we're looking at it.
Well, the worst thing, this, when you played, it was actually worse, because when they called the illegal pitch, you got rewarded a base.
Looks like a video game. And I was a little freshman, like watching this Tennessee Orange go just round and round. I'm like, they're just going to keep running around.
At least now they've changed it where it's a ball or a result of the play type of thing. Not back then, where I remember I called the UCF Florida game. We lost the game because Shelby Turney was called for an illegal pitch, so the run from third scored because of that. The winning run. Brutal. Hey, look, I'm with you. Get rid of it, because this ain't 19. I don't think pitchers have that big of an advantage like they used to, right? Like, how big of an advantage is that, supposedly, the crow? I mean, compared to what hitters do now. That's my whole argument on that.
I'm sorry. I was bragging on my Wi-Fi, and then
they never talk about Wi-Fi, because then they'll come back and bite you. But how much of an advantage is really an illegal pitch nowadays, especially with the way the technology?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. And nobody has talked about the fact that was it 3 years now? I think this is the third year where they allowed the back foot, the stride foot, to be off of the mound. Does anybody know how much of a game changer that is for pitchers? Nobody talks about it. That is the biggest game changer over anything. And it's why we're seeing the pitch speeds jacked up, because of it's like track. You watch Usain Bolt and track runners, how they start, they're down, they're explosive, they're in their quads. Okay, sorry. Okay, so they're in a launch position, they push up. Imagine track runners taking their start with their feet.
Sure.
Like this. You're not gonna push off very hard. That's what we had to do. I would kill to be in this generation, to have my back foot. I'm 6 feet tall, size 12 feet. I would, if anything, I got called illegal pitches because my back foot would always slide off a little bit, and they would just, see that little inch and not be happy with it. But that pushing off is going to make you more explosive, which is, in my opinion, is why you're going to see more pitchers that are airborne, because they're more explosive. They're pushing off more. So it's almost like we allowed this. The implications are going to be off of the mound, whether it's an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, it's going to be more explosive. We're trying to throw 70 miles an hour every single pitch. So it's just funny to me, because that rule was just so quietly put in. Nobody really talked about it. And I'm sitting here as a pitcher going, that is a game changer. We're going to see girls that are throwing 70 miles an hour throw 74 like that. Like that. I would have thrown 3-4 miles an hour harder easily.
Very good. Well, I approve. I say we get rid of the rules. So I'm good. All right. Yeah. How many more other rules? What other stuff you want to see in the game? Because I told you to have a list ready.
Yeah, but it's on Twitter, out of the box. Out of the box to me was like the new illegal pitch, because the illegal pitch is just, we're used to it at this point. It's like, we're done with it. We're over it.
Well, let me ask you this theory, because somebody told me that's in the game. Part of the theory, the problem is, and it's weird, they have 4 umpires for the postseason, which means more eyes, which means maybe there's more like nitpicking calls that aren't made in the regular season. Do you think that's a factor in why we've seen more of the out of the box calls, for example, like you mentioned, especially in Salt Lake?
That was what I was told when I was a freshman, when I was getting illegal pitches called, is that they had more umpires, so they had somebody that could watch my feet. And I was like, okay, where is that? The whole
what a weird line that is, by the way. That's got to be really awkward if somebody tells you, yeah, they're just going to stare at your feet the whole game.
That's what I was told. And I was like, okay, so where was this during Pac-10 at the time? I was like, where was this during Pac-10? So I could like understand that this was going to be a factor in my first ever World Series. So it's the same thing. It's like literally the exact same. It just feels the same to me. Where all of a sudden you have a new umpire and like their job is one thing, and the poor slappers are like, oh, but I've been getting away with this all season long. And not to say getting away with it. It's like, if you're not told that you need to do something, you're not going to change. It's what you're comfortable with. You're getting hits. You're going to continue to get hits. My thing is like, what service does it do to our game? Like, what are we trying to protect with letting our... Uh-oh, did I freeze again?
No, you're good. We're hearing you. Okay. We're talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
Big audience too. People love you, by the way, on the chat. Oh,
well, great. Thanks, guys. I'm just here on my couch, just, getting my softball thoughts out. So I don't understand what it really like gives or takes away to our game. Like, and that's the thing with simplifying rules and taking less off our umpires. If rules aren't going to like drastically change, why do we need them? Like, less rules better. Keep it simple, bat and ball, 6 feet, turn left. And I will tell you, as a pitcher, in my era, you had to have the whole foot out, or obviously if you step on home plate, and that's how it is in the major leagues. If you have a little bit over the chalk, nobody really cares. And I will tell you, as a pitcher, I kind of liked it when slappers were on home plate, because I just would go hard in, and I would get a little pop up or a little deadening, and I would, my second baseman would know to charge in a little bit, play in front of the baseline, because I was going to go curve or drop really hard in, because they were really, toes up on the chalk. Am I still good? My computer just did a little thing again. Oh no. Oh no, what happened? Maybe it's the universe that...
All right, I'm back. I had to take care of something real quick there.
Okay, cool.
You like that? I surprised you.
What happened? I was like, am I still here?
No, you're still here. I just had to take something, when you're at home, it's 1 a.m. here. People are asking, what are you doing?
Oh my God, it's 1 a.m.?
In my house.
Is that why you picked me to come on? Because I'm a West Coaster and it's only 10 o'clock my time. This is abuse. Yes. This is abuse for you. It's late.
It's with you though. I'm good. Like, who else am I rather talk softball with at 1 a.m.?
We can sleep in the off season.
Exactly. In about a week. All right.
To summarize, let's revert back, because I just don't understand. And slapping is literally one of the coolest things and brings fans in. Like, I still have people like that are still learning, which is crazy to me, because how are we still have people that are just finding out about softball? But it's okay. But when we have new softball fans, they are just like flabbergasted at the slapping thing. And I have to explain it to them. And they're like, that is the coolest thing ever. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty dynamic. It's a fun little piece for our game. So I just, we don't need it. Go back to the old rule where your whole foot has to be out. It's a very easy call, especially with TV. You could even make it reviewable if that wants to make people happy. Make it reviewable, and then your whole foot has to be out. The end.
All right, that's 2 rules down. Next rule, you want
the other one. Let's get rid of the pitching lanes.
Ooh, well, I've not heard this one. Okay, why?
They're just ugly and they're gone after the second inning.
So what would you do?
Just the mound, the circle around it. You can put a lot.
Why are the lanes there? Why are
the lanes are there? Because of one Taryn Mowat, our girl Timo, because she was so good in the World Series. They said that can't happen again. So we're gonna make our pitchers stay in the lanes and not be able to stride a little bit more to the left on a screwball.
Wow, I did not know that. I learn something every time I talk to you. This is why.
After we got people from World Series.
We got people watching from Japan, Maryland, all over, just so you know.
Wow.
Just to watch you.
I'm honored.
Definitely not me.
Oh, they're here for you. Are you kidding?
No. They're happy to see you. Let me ask you about this, because this has been TV has pushed this narrative, and it's the pitch clock. Baseball has it in Major League Baseball. What's your opinion on the pitch clock? People have thrown that out there. All the coaches in the World Series was asked about it. I was happy that some of the coaches, Heather Tarr in particular, said, wait, yes, we could do some things, but let's remember TV's kind of like, they put 40 minutes of commercial, because obviously this has been a big narrative, keep shorting the games, why are games going longer? I'm a defender of pitchers, Kenzie.
Me too. Shocker.
Because here's my thing. We tell everybody that in softball, every pitch matters, right? It's the most important pitch, every pitch.
Yeah, we're not ready for a pitch clock. We're not ready.
But my point is, now we're telling you, but you got to do it within 20 seconds.
We're not ready for a pitch clock. I am pretty adamant about no pitch clock right now.
All right, go ahead. Why are we not ready for
it? Because what is this, year 4, 5, 6 of the armbands? Like, that's in the scape of things, that's not a lot. There are some other things that we can do to speed up the game instead of doing a pitch clock. So let's do those first. Regroup. Bring back
what? What would you want to do? What would you want to
I would
speed
love
up
to
the game?
see it's an international rule, so it's already in our games. MLB is doing it, so the precedent is there. Batters cannot take their foot 2 feet out of the batter's box unless
keep a foot in.
Foul ball.
Right, keep a foot in.
Easy.
Yeah, Heather Tarr brought that up. Yeah,
easy. And then, shocker, bigger strike zone.
Amy Hogue said that in their press conference. She said, if they just throw more, call more strikes and less balls, then it'd be a quicker game.
Bigger strike zone. So that way, and I've talked to, and I have this conversation with my sister all the time. So my sister pitched a little bit in high school, but she was a hitter, shortstop, first baseman, played for Nebraska, played in the World Series in 2013. She would always tell me, like, I'm fine with, and I hit too, so not to sell myself short a little bit, but she hit all 4 years. I hit 1. She would tell me, I'm fine with the big strike zone. I just need to know what it is in the first inning, and I need to know that it's consistent, and I'll be fine. I'll be able to adjust. You want to tell me it's a little bit low? Sure, I'll go get it. But I just can't be surprised all of a sudden in the 4th inning when you pull that out. So, and our hitters are so good in this game, they'll be fine. It just needs to be like, and to me, I want to see it this way. Vertical. How many times is the ball over the plate and we see the catcher go like this, turn to the dugout and go, it's down. I'm like, that's not down. Are you kidding me? That's right above her knees. Or Michaela Enfield. I know she's 6 feet tall, but she catches it like right here below her mask, perfectly in the corner. Is too high? I thought the strike zone was the bottom of the sternum. That's pretty big, and we just don't call it. So I would love to see a concentrated effort in vertical strike zones, and then put your foot in the box as a hitter. I think if we do those 2 things, it will be a very good game.
What do you think about all the delays, all the mound visits, not necessarily the mound visits, but the, hey, come here, let's talk. Like, there's a lot of that too in the game. Like, we could cut that down even more, no?
I think so too. Yeah. I think
that being said, I think we are going to get a pitch clock, because there's just been too much talk about it.
And I don't know if our infrastructure is ready for that. I don't think obviously you think Power 5, but you have to look above Power 5. Like, there was so much controversy about the safety base, and that's a base. That's not even a technology thing. And so many people.
We still don't have replay at every conference yet. And we're asking now to put a pitch clock?
That's what I'm saying. We're not ready. Just opinion. I'm just sitting on a couch.
No, look, you and I, again, I'll fight for the pitcher. I'm a pitcher's guy. Unfortunately, the problem is, because baseball's all of a sudden everybody's jumping to conclude because baseball's going faster now. And it is. Major League Baseball, it's been working. My counter to that is, can we just wait till we get to October and see how the playoff games look like for Major League Baseball? Because I have a feeling the times of those games are going to go longer. Maybe there's a compromise where you do a pitch clock in the regular season and not in the I don't know, but I have a bad feeling we're going to get a pitch clock. I don't think 20 seconds should be the answer. I think 25 maybe could be a middle ground there, but we'll see.
I will say I do love the idea of a pitch clock, and you see it in international play when we watch the Olympics. That was a beautiful just pace of our game. The reason I say that we're not ready for it is because we don't have catchers that call their own games. In international, in the when we're going to watch Athletes Unlimited here in the next month, it is so fast because the pitchers know exactly what they want. The catchers are the veterans. They know exactly what they want. And it's me and you. Do you want this? No, I want this. Okay, let's go. And we're in our stage of the game. We're not at the part where our catchers and our pitchers have the ability to call the game like they used to 15 years ago.
Well, and I've spoke to Ken Erickson, who's is the South Florida head coach, and for a long time is the U.S. national coach, and he has his pitchers and catchers call the game still to this day, and he believes he blames it on travel ball. That in travel ball now, pitchers don't get to call their games anymore. They don't go deep in games anymore because everybody wants to showcase a pitcher and have them throw an inning or two, but they don't even get to learn how to call a game until they get to college. And now the other problem is there's a lot of coaches that are like, no, we're just going to take control from it. Lonnie's calling pitches. We saw it tonight. Lonnie was, got her thing going. I think, unfortunately, I don't know if we're ever going to go back to that. I just feel like the ship sailed on that as far as pitchers and catchers calling that game.
I'm optimistic, but I have to be. I can't be too negative about that because it's just such a huge part. I remember I called my games in high school as a pitcher, and I would turn around and I would flash to my catcher. I had a younger catcher my last 2 seasons, and I was like, I'll just call a game. We're good. I would turn around and I would have my glove faced in a certain way. I would walk with my back to her, and as soon as I turned around at the end of the circle or the top of the circle, I had my glove positioned in a certain way, and it was very, very slight, but she would know exactly what to look for. If it was up a little bit, I want to rise. If my hand was in a fist, I wanted to change. 2 fingers on my pants, I wanted to drop. So I loved that. I did it a little bit in college as well later in my career, and you just don't see it anymore. So that's why I say we're not ready for a pitch clock, because there's so many little development pieces that go into that people don't really recognize. And
plus, by the way, you're adding more things to the umpire. And I know I'm a tennis fan, so I watch they have a serve clock, but it's very subjective because it's when do you start the clock? There's some, like Rafael Nadal is one that's notorious for taking forever for a serve, but he's Rafael Nadal. Do you have the guts to go ahead and clock him?
Nope.
Probably not. No. So a lot of times, sometimes the chairperson kind of waits till, hey, he gets, he towels a lot. Do you wait till he towels off? Do you wait till he gets the ball? There's a lot of subjectivity that comes into that. So I think that's a problem. Like, when do you start the clock in softball? When the pitcher has the ball, when she sees, there's a lot of, now you're adding more stuff, and then there's going to be frustration because some umpires are going to be very loose about that. Maybe be a little, hey, if he gets it, if you get it out of there, we won't call it. But then others will be very strict.
Yeah,
I feel like we're headed for that.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying I don't ever want to see it. I would like to see a vertical strike zone first, and I would like to see the batters with 1 foot in the box first. And then if we can have those two, I'll be happy. And then if we still need to speed up the game, let's add the pitching clock. I feel like that's fair.
If we clocked you when you pitched, how long did it take you?
I like to move fast. I was real fast. Yeah, I didn't have the energy to walk around like Jordy Ball does. I'd be like, nah, I'm going to save my steps and just a couple feet off the mound and then get back on. I was fast.
And there is a lot of strategy, right? As a pitcher, if you like to go quick, there's a rhythm. Some hitters want to get, how do you throw off a pitcher? Maybe you step out for a second. That is part of the game. That is part of the game, and vice versa.
And then also another easy one is having pitchers. You can't leave the circle unless there's a ball in play or something.
Interesting.
So if you just watch it tomorrow, you'll watch. Both Kat and Jordy Ball will walk, and you saw Ali Dubois do it a couple of times too. Walk way out of the circle, and then Michaela Enfield and Alyssa Breeder are walking way towards the dugout. Like, that takes 10 seconds. Let's just stay where we're at. We're good. Just stay right there. And I think that'll help speed it up.
All right, very good. I feel like we're I think we're going to lose this one. I have a bad feeling that you and I are going to be talking next year about a pitch
I'm used
clock.
to it. Are you kidding? We're good. I've been fighting the illegal pitch battle. It's been 13 years since 2010.
Well, I hope you win that one. Well, yeah, that's my whole point. We keep talking about it every year, and it still
that's
sticks
what I'm saying.
around.
Like I'm used to losing in terms of the legal pitch rule thing. Like I just accepted my fate. Like, yeah, all right. I can still talk about it.
How about other rules you like? Any other rules you want to add, subtract?
I mean, I'm not the best one to talk about obstruction. I know, I understand the safety aspect of it. So many times I feel like it could just be solved with a better throw defensively. So many times we've just these terrible throws coming in, and it puts our catchers in terrible positions, and then it's just obstruction because the ball's taking them right into the runner. So many times I'm calling games in the booth. I'm like, if they just throw that and they concentrate and practice their throws coming in from whether it's a cut from the middle infield or if it's an outfield on a do or die, it needs to be more in fair territory, help our catchers out. I do feel like it can be rewritten. I'm going to punt this one to a catcher. I'll take the illegal pitches and, the pitching rules, but I'll punt it to a catcher. But it does need to be rewritten because so many times the runner is dead in the water, and it's obstruction. And we're just like, oh my God, what? She's dead by 3 feet.
And the weird thing about it, I remember when that obstruction was put in, it was a reaction to what was going on in baseball, because baseball was the one where you had a lot of collisions.
Yeah.
And yet softball kind of like, well, let's adapt that. But I don't remember as many obstruction. And, we had that call in the World Series where they called obstruction at first base when it's just like, all right, can you use a little comments? I feel like sometimes we don't use common sense in some of this stuff.
Correct. So I just feel like I understand the intent. Can we be better with our throws? 100%. But let's give our catchers a little bit of grace to say, like, if they have the ball, what are they supposed to do? Just like dance onto the side and then wait until the runner comes in? Okay. I don't know. It's just, I understand you have to have the ball you can block the ball you can block the lane as soon as you have the ball. But it just seems like the feel of the game is lost in the rule. And so we just need to tweak it a little bit. I'm not going to be the one to write that legislation. We'll pass it to like Jen Schroeder or Ketcher or somebody that can speak to it a lot better than I can.
Fair. I love this. I never knew this. I've known you now for a while. I never knew this passion you had about rules. Now, like, because every summer there's going to be
on me, Eric. I was a freshman. It was forced. I've lived this trauma my whole life.
I remember watching that, and I was like, poor girl. Yeah. But I remember. So I'm going to have to bring you on.
Stephanie Brombacher. It was
Yes, so I saw that up close many a time. Yes.
Yeah, we were the guinea pigs, so that was fun.
So when they always come out with that press release, and about rule changes in the fall, in the off season, I'll just have to bring you on to react to it.
I'm nervous.
Don't be. All right, other rule. Yep.
I was saying one other thing that I have been thinking about, but this is so far off of like what's actually like attainable in a rules change year. But like if we can start the conversations about it because we see new facilities being built, is it time to move our fences back?
Whoa! Woo-hoo! Why do that? What's just because you think there's too many home runs in the game? What are we thinking there?
These balls are being crushed.
How far back would you move it though?
Well, see, and I called the Salt Lake Regional at Utah. That's the biggest field in Division I. Oh my gosh, I think it's 230 down the lines. 230, something's 230. But to me, it's
230 down the line. Wow,
it's really big. I'll have to look it up. But it's the biggest field. What's more, it was so fun to watch, and it's what we saw just tonight is our outfielders' athleticism. I would love to see them run a little bit more, throw a little bit further. It was dynamic watching, Haley Denning in left field, Jayla Lassiter in center field for Ole Miss. Like, it was fun. And you could see it as the games were going on. They would kind of start to figure out like, oh, I've got some more room here. Let me just turn on the jets a little bit more. And our athletes are faster, stronger, just quicker twitched. They're better prepared defensively with their shifts. Open up the outfield, I think it can make our game even more exciting. And I don't think the offense would suffer at all. I mean, are we watching the same home runs? These balls aren't barely going out, right? They're the balls that Michaela Edenfield, Kenzie Hansen, like they're still going. So I think it's something that I would love to start to talk about because, these facilities are starting to get built and this stuff takes a lot of time. But I would love to start pushing it back a little bit and make like a minimum at the lines. I know I'm not going to say their names, but there's a couple of stadiums in the country where the lines are like 190.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of a joke.
I definitely think there should be no park that has 190 at all. It should be 200 above, right? Like, I think we could all agree on that a little bit.
We can agree.
We're going to lose.
We have to start talking about this so that way it gains traction. And if anybody watched that Salt Lake regional with me, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about because the outfield play was just ridiculous. And plus, how fun is it to watch triples? To watch these athletes sprint around the bases, slide into third, like that's fun. And you see it in the major leagues. Like when there's a triple hit in the alley, it's like, yeah, this is fun. We don't get a lot of triples.
No.
Unless
you do realize we're going to lose that argument too because they're going to say people like the home run. They don't want to.
Well, then let's make the ball a little bit more dense, make the core a little bit more small.
Oh, don't even start with that because college baseball is going with that.
You can do that. You know what I mean? So like
I know, but like college baseball this year, home runs have skyrocketed because it's averaging like 2.2, 2.3 home runs per time. You ready? We got you still. You still got you there. But home runs are averaging in college baseball 2.2, 2.3 per game. It's skyrocketed. It used to be an average around 1.8, 1.9, and there's a lot of theories why college baseball's got more home runs. Is it juice bats? Is it juice balls? Is it a combination of things? So my point is, anytime you talk about messing with the ball, people flip out. That's my whole point.
Well, people are going to flip out with rules changing anyway, so we might as well flip them all the way out.
I love this. All right, this is good. Have you got it out of your system? Because I remember this is all the rules.
I know. So yeah, no, I feel like people are on pace with me. Finally, it's time. Like I see it on Twitter. It's like it's getting that mainstream vibes. Once I heard it out of Michelle Smith's mouth and Jessica's mouth on ESPN yesterday, I was like, we've made it. We've said it. We're talking about it openly.
Well, I think this proves that you and I are meant to call a game together at some point. We just need to make that happen.
I know. Well, with you having it be 2 a.m. almost your time, and it's, I don't know. We'll make it happen one time.
I'm ready to call Pac-12 games, though. You know what I mean? Speaking of the Pac-12, that's called the segue. Pac-12's had a fun tournament. You mentioned Salt Lake. You called the Salt Lake Regional. Utah ended up going to the World Series, joining Washington and Stanford, which has become, I think, one of the bigger stories of this World Series. In fact, Stanford, Washington on ABC drew 1.3 million viewers. And I think you could make the argument, Kenzie, as weird as this sounds, we have a new star of the game. The face of the sport resides in Palo Alto. Yep. And people next year are going to be excited to see Stanford, not UCLA or Arizona. That's the first team people are going to talk about when they talk about the Pac-12 is Stanford. Another successful year with the Pac-12, despite the fact that UCLA, in one of maybe the biggest upset in the history of the tournament, goes out 0-2 in the regionals, and Arizona doesn't make the tournament for the first time in 40 years, yet the Pac-12 had another successful tournament.
Yeah, and I think I saw a stat that it's the first conference for every school to make the World Series, which is really cool. And you think about the 3 teams that were there last year, didn't make it this year, 3 new teams. Like, that's just deep. Oh my gosh, Kenzie After Dark. Yeah, that's my life. Okay, it's Pac-12 After Dark. Like we're always thriving on the West Coast because everyone's falling asleep on the East Coast, and we're alive and well. So when these lightning delays were happening, I'm like, here we go. I'm ready. I'm just going to dinner. We're good to go.
Let me ask you, why has the Pac-12 been so successful? Because this is 2 years in a row. You've had the most teams in the World Series. I tweeted this stat out, didn't make SEC fans happy, but Pac-12 teams eliminated 5 SEC teams this year in the NCAA tournament. 5. You were there one of them when Utah eliminated Ole Miss. Stanford eliminated Florida in their regional, eliminated Alabama at the World Series. Oregon eliminated Arkansas in Fayetteville. Missouri eliminated Cal. How has the Pac-12, you've covered the league, but you've also called SEC games this year, full notice. So you've seen both leagues. I remember 2 years ago, we're thinking SEC is past the Pac-12. They have better facilities. They have all this exposure, all this financial from their contracts with the conference. Yet the Pac-12 has held strong. Now, we're not going to talk about the future. Who the heck knows where all that's going? I just want to focus on the field now. How has the Pac-12 stayed strong?
I've said this consistently. I think they have the best coaching. And I don't really think it's close.
From a depth standpoint, you're talking about top to bottom?
Yeah. They have.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It's well, they're all female, which is cool. 6 of them are alums. And you think about if you're an alum from a Pac-12 school, not to age them too much, but that means that you were the elite team, right? 20, 30 years ago when they were playing. You were the elite team when your team was, well, I shouldn't say 20. Chelsea Spencer played in 2002. Oh, that is 20. Never mind. You can do math. But they're playing for the elite teams at the elite moments, and they're sticking around. Also, the hitting has been, I don't know what they're doing in their practices. The hitting, calling SEC games, I said the SEC had the best pitching, I thought, depth-wise. I thought they had the most star power pitching-wise. And I think that stands true if you look at the All-American list. Rogers, Penta, Fouts, Dels. Like, it was very deep from the SEC. But the Pac-12, because the Pac-12 was all about the pitching. A couple of years ago, you had Garcia and, Taylor McQuillan, all those pitchers. But last year, in the year or two, it's been the hitting, the offense. So 2 things. The offense is the best in the country, and as a conference whole, 1-9. And then I think they have the best coaching.
Oh, I mentioned that Cal eliminated Missouri. Obviously, I know Oklahoma eliminated Cal. Oklahoma's in the Big 12 for now. So that the SEC doesn't get credit for that for another 2 years. All right. Stanford, though. You mentioned pitching, though. They got pitching and then some. Najee Kennedy, who I think has become the star now, and I would argue the face of the sport. Now, I think that was one of the big takeaways this year, because going into the year, I said, who's the new star of the sport, the face of the sport that Jocelyn Alo was, that Rachel Garcia was? We've seen it in women's basketball with Caitlin Clark and how she's become the face of women's basketball. We have a face now, Kenny. People were just mesmerized with her. And I don't know, there's just something about a pitcher that throws like she does, where she's throwing gas early to mid 70s. And then, oh, by the way, she can throw a changeup too, mix it in there. You covered the whole league the whole year. You saw her up close. I mean, the sky's the limit for her. What's the ceiling here?
Yeah, I remember, listening to Coach Alistair talk about her in the fall. And she was incredibly excited for her. And I remember talking to you about this exact thing. When a coach has this kind of praise for a player that hasn't stepped on the field, it's very bold, because you don't want to be burned. All of a sudden, like, that coach doesn't know what she's talking about. She can't recruit. Like, what is she? Can't judge talent. Jessica Alistair was very bold, and she was like, this player is going to change our program. So it was kind of an up and down year for her, though. She comes out guns blazing. Everyone's like, yeah, as advertised. And then we just don't see her for a month in Pac-12. Missed UCLA, missed Arizona, missed Washington. I think also missed Oregon. So that was kind of just like, I don't know, people just forgot that she was there, to be honest, because Stanford was still doing their thing. Like Lena Vaughter, pitching like she has her whole career, carrying the load, doing just fine. So people forgot that she was in the mix, because we just didn't see or hear from her. And then all of a sudden we saw her in the Pac-12 tournament, shutting down UCLA. Puller in the 5th inning. Everyone's like, wait, what? Stanford ends up losing that game. Kind of forget about her again because they lost. And then all of a sudden she, storms all the way to Oklahoma City. You're pitching, and when you're pitching against Oklahoma, that's when people are going to really like take it for what it is, because she was shutting them down and making the Jada Coleman's, Tiare Jennings, make them look foolish at times. And we have never seen that from those types of hitters, just miss pitches by 2 feet. So that was really exciting just for fans to kind of like, because I think fans know who Oklahoma is, obviously, maybe that aren't as big of fans as you and I that are just casually tuning in. They know that Oklahoma is legit. And so they're seeing like, oh, who's this girl? She's a freshman. Look at this emotion. Like, she's all over it. So it was definitely absolutely the breakout star of the Women's College World Series and in Stanford. And my hope is that we can lift her up media-wise like she deserves. And I will leave it at that.
Amen. She was fantastic. And great credit to Elena Vodder, who's the veteran pitcher on that staff and has been such a great teammate. And just Alistair alluded to that in the postgame because she's kind of accepted that, sharing role with her.
Oh, her quotes were just warming my heart because you could tell there was zero jealousy. It was all like her quotes were, she's the best pitcher I've ever seen. This is a senior All-American for the first time in her career who has absolutely been through the ringer with this program, bringing them up from absolutely nothing, deserves every single ounce of pitching time for them in the biggest moments. And she is letting her freshmen shine and she's cheering her on. It was just the most heartwarming dynamic between the senior and the freshman, recognizing each other's talents and like, I'm here for you. I'm going to let you shine. I'm going to cheer you on. You're the best pitcher I've ever seen.
It was interesting. I had a lot of Oklahoma people reach out to me and they said, we don't, no disrespect to Florida State. We'll see what happens the rest of this series. But they said, South Carolina might be the second best team we played all year. The best team we played all year without pitchers.
Yeah.
And I could see that. And Jessica Allister, I don't know if you saw the post game, she announced that their big facilities, $50 million to the new facilities for them.
See, and I'm really bummed because oh, wait. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. I don't know if it's out publicly yet, so we'll just pretend.
As far as where the Pac-12 tournament's going?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. No, let's just leave it that. That's why.
My bad.
What? I'm glad it was that. I was worried for a second where you were going with that, but yeah, Pac-12 tournament might be going somewhere.
Be going somewhere.
Somewhere. There you go. Somewhere out west. There you go. That's the hint.
It's Kenzie after dark. She needs to go to bed.
It's Kenzie after dark. People get all sensitive about where it's going. The SEC's already announced where they're going next year.
I know. I don't want to be the one to get in trouble.
I understand.
But see, and I'm taking a page out of Jess's book. She says, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about the 50 ball. I think we should. Like, if this is something that's coming down the line, like, let's celebrate it. Let's talk about it.
Oh, boy. Now, you and I could spend hours talking about that. Like, one of the things that drove me nuts about coaches when they get their contracts, I'm like, why don't you, release what your contract is? Because that could help your other fellow coaches, get like football and basketball. They always leak out contracts. Like, hey, this coach has just signed a 5-year deal worth this amount. And nobody wants to do that in softball. And I'm like, hey, that could help the sport. Like Patty Gasso when they announced her contract.
Let's talk about it. Let's be open with it.
Yeah, let's go. Oh, you and I just that's all right. If it wasn't for the fact that it's almost 2 a.m. here, we would go off on that. But we're not doing that.
Well, I'm excited to see this $50 million stadium, and let's elevate it and let's move the fences back a little bit.
You just reach out to them now and just bring that suggested. See how that goes. Although they might be for that. I could see.
I will say it's really hard to hit home runs in Palo Alto. I don't know what it is. If the little bit of, I don't know. It's like humidity there a little bit. I don't know if it's like I loved pitching there because the balls didn't really fly. Yeah. So maybe their fences are fine.
Utah getting to the World Series. You saw them up close. Thoughts on the Utes there? Amy Hogan company 0-2. They had that washout, so they had to play 2 games that day after they lost to Tough. I don't know what you can do about that with the scheduling the way it is. Just kind of bad break. But no, I mean, heck of a year for them. Most runs scored ever in program history. Stolen bases. Get breakthrough first time in the World Series in over 30 years. I mean, big for Amy Hogan, Utah.
Oh, it was one of my favorite regionals moments of my broadcasting career to be like just there in the atmosphere. And you could kind of tell a little bit when UCLA got eliminated on Saturday. Like on Sunday, there was just a different buzz in that ballpark. And it was really cool because they were like, we're hungry. We're going to go get this right now. And we're going to host Supers. And once they got the final out and, you hear the announcer saying hosting Supers, the crowd just lost their mind. And so it was just a really cool moment to be a part of that history and to kind of share that with them. They're good and they're going to be good again next year. Only really big bat that they lose is Bondstrom, their first baseman, 2-hitter. They're going to reload, bring in some freshmen. Haley Denning just announced that she's coming back after she had told everyone that she was walking away, which was I was kind of like, because I remember talking to Coach Hoke. She was like, yeah, she has some opportunities. We're celebrating her as a senior. And then I think it was today on social media, they announced her coming back. So get a little bit of taste of that World Series and you say, yeah, I want to do that again. So I think they have a chance to be right back in the mix. They do graduate Sydney Sandez, who is their number 2 pitcher. And I think, a team that makes it to Oklahoma City, you got to have a number 2 pitcher. I don't know if Ladd can be that behind Lopez, or maybe they have another freshman coming in. But I called them at the time the most electric and exciting offense in the game. Not powerful, obviously, that goes to Oklahoma, but just in terms of executing, base running, the small ball, hitting for gaps, hitting triples, utilizing their field, they were something to watch.
Washington. Obviously, we know that magical comeback against McNeese, down 6, 3 outs away. Ruby Malin, young freshman, but they got all the way to the World Series. Maybe with some better timely hits, they would have been playing in the Final Four. Maybe, who knows? But Washington, too, I think upside for them, too, with that young pitch. I know they lose some bats, but another strong year. Good for the Huskies getting back to the World Series since 2019.
Yeah, and another big face. I think Ruby Malin's going to be a star. I think she is a star. And, of course, you're in the same class as Kennedy, so you're always going to be compared. But I hate to do that because we can share. We can have multiple stars that are, the same age and carry our game and take it to the next level. We've seen that with so many, dominant fifth-year seniors this season. So it's going to be really exciting for the Pack to have these 2 young stars in the circle with Kennedy and Malin, and see them go at it for the next 3 years. The duel that we had, my pitching heart, I loved that game. I was like, I know everyone's whining, they wanting some offense, but I was just loving watching those 2 youngsters go at it. It was so fun. So yeah, the future is bright for sure. Starts in the circle, but a lot of good pieces there for Washington.
Yeah, that Washington-Stanford, again, ABC, 1.3 million viewers. Oklahoma, Tennessee had 1.4 million. That's big numbers.
I want to know what the numbers would have been for Stanford, Oklahoma, if that game would have been prime time.
Probably, I would think it's a great point. But it's a great point because you're right. Noon. I mean, they did a big number. They did about 844,000 for a noon start
on ESPN, not even ABC.
Right, which is a huge number for a noon. Like to get that number in television and cable on at noon when
on a Monday. Yeah. It was on a Monday at noon, not even Sunday at noon, where people are just chilling on the couch. Like people are working.
But people don't want to play late night. They don't want to do, they don't want to be up at 1:30 in the morning playing.
I think those numbers would have been.
I agree.
Crazy. Yeah,
would have been big. Real quick, can UCLA bounce back? Do they bounce back from? Honestly, I'm being kind. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I know it sounds harsh, but it was a debacle. It was a debacle going 0-2, biggest upset in this format of the tournament. Last year in the Pac-12, which is a whole other storyline next year, do they bounce back from that?
Well, that's the thing that I think those two kind of go together. It's a huge just thing in the sport.
Yeah.
You're trying to recover. They graduate, Megan Framo and the rest of their senior class, Kelly Good and Aaliyah Jordan. So that was the last of the 2019 group that won the national championship. So you have that star factor there and the leadership and everything. So they graduate. Of course, you return Maya Brady. She's one of the faces of the game. But it was just I don't know, with them having it be their last year in the Pac-12, you're coming off of you said it, but I'm not going to disagree, the biggest upset that we've ever seen in regionals.
It is. I mean, they're the highest seed. They're the highest seed to ever go 0-2 in a regional. No team in the top 10 national seeds has ever gone 0-2. The lowest was number 11 seed. They went 0-2. Stunning. I mean, considering who they are.
Yeah. So, and you add, I just feel like it's a lot next year. I don't know. I don't really have an answer because there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, no, I think that's a storyline next year. How do they bounce back? And they're going to say the right things. Look, and they're going to have talent. Don't get me wrong, but
what's the swan song going to look like? Because the landscape of our sport is going to change dramatically by that one move. Of course, we're going to see some other moves in the SEC and the Big 12, but to me, that one stands above the rest to me because they are. The perennial power in our sport in terms of just the tradition and the history. And when you think of the Pac-12 and you think of the West Coast, they're, a huge part of that. And it's the most drastic move to me. Oklahoma to the SEC, Texas SEC. It's like, okay, it's, rich get richer. But I just think the strangest move. So it's going to change things the most.
You mean you're not looking for UCLA, Rutgers, 3-game series in Piscataway, Big Ten Conference series down the road. All right. Last thing, I'll let you go before we get in trouble more, because it is Laughter Night After Dark.
Yeah.
Who do you expect to see pitching tomorrow night? Game 2, Oklahoma and Florida. It's got to be Sandercock, right? Right? Okay.
Sandercock and May.
I agree. I think it's May and I think Ball is available to close it out if they have the lead, right? I think that's what we're thinking.
No doubt.
What are you thinking? Are we gonna get it? Are we gonna get a game 3 here, or what's your gut telling you?
Yes, because we want more softball to watch.
All right. Well, if that happens, we'll bring you back on. Unless we have a rain delay tomorrow, then we'll just bring you back.
I have no more rules to complain about, Eric. I aired all my grievances. We're good.
But then I kept my promise. I said I gave you the open platform, and we've done that.
Thank you.
I can't. Normally, this is the time of period when I promote all.
It's past your bedtime.
You obviously don't know me well enough. I still got to upload post-game pressers and stuff.
But
gosh. Normally I would promote all your broadcasts, but you don't have any broadcasts. You're in off-season mode.
Yeah, we're in off-season mode. We're gonna soak up the rest of this World Series and then watch some Athletes Unlimited.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right.
It's perfect timing, because I feel like it's like we're coming off such a high with college softball. We need something to kind of help us out a little bit. And I think Athletes Unlimited, the timing to me is perfect, coming right after the World Series when everyone's right in on softball. So I'm excited for that. And, I think there's a lot to be learned from Athletes Unlimited. We can watch the pace of play. We can watch the catchers call the game. The pitchers own their pitches. The batters aren't going to walk all the way to the dugout and walk all the way back. Like, it's a very efficient game. So I think there's a lot of things that we can watch and learn from.
I agree. I also agree with Fabric. We have great chemistry when we're on the air.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's cute.
We're gonna have to figure that out, how to get on the air. So
I think.
All right.
How delirious and tired we are probably has a lot to do with it.
True. All right, we're gonna wrap up the show here. For Victor, who went to sleep a couple hours ago.
Good for him.
Good for him. He's good for him. Thank you, Kenzie, for tolerating me here for an hour and 20 minutes. Always enjoyed talking to you, and hit up a lot of subjects that our audience enjoyed, and we'll be in touch. Even though it's an off season, doesn't mean I'm going to not bother you. Just so
this is when all the it's portal season, it's coaching move season.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, for the audience, we will be on pregame prior to game 2. Charlotte Morgan will be joining us pregame.
Oh, nice.
She's over in Chicago for Athletes Unlimited, helping out over there as well.
Wow, good get.
And then I think we're doing postgame. We're hoping to have DJ Gasso join us from OKC at some point, either in the pregame or the postgame. If weather's crappy like it was tonight, maybe not. And then we're hoping to have also Megan Bartlett, the Arizona State head coach, join us as well. Who knows?
Pac-12 flavor there. Let's go. West Coast. You're just speaking to West Coasters because we'll be up and coherent.
That's the key. And they're smart, like you.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, everybody. And good night. This has been In the Circle Life for Kenzie Fowler. I'm Eric Lopez. Good night. You've been watching In the Circle.